What you have seen me do in my lives is essentially, you see me draw multiple situations where prices going back and forth, right? That's coming from me drawing things, right? That's coming from me drawing things on a piece of paper with a pen, going up, down, up, down, down, up, down, all over the place. And that's coming from me doing this thing over and over and over and over again, right? So, uh, take notes. That's absolutely gonna help you, right? What you've learned so far is calling this very area a breathing room, right? Price runs higher, stops to take a breath, and goes higher again. It's that simple, right? You've noted it out. Your mind should start to look for these areas automatically sooner or later, right? So just because the homework is done doesn't mean that you stop doing it. I want your mind, that's the first thing that should pop to your mind. That's the areas you are interested in the market, and they are all over the place, as you may see. What we're gonna run into today's session is essentially this very thing right here. Now, some of you guys already know what's up, right? Um, we're gonna dig deeper into this, of course. In the advanced sequence, we're digging deeper into what is this, what is that, what is this, what is that. For now, I want to talk about what this very thing right here is. You've all learned this so far. You've read that out. And now we're gonna focus down on number two, into number three, into number four and five, right? And this is, as you may see, the entire sequence playing out right in front of you. And what is important here is that we understand how price is operating based around the breathing room that is being created, right? That is the highly important area for us to take our potential position, right? Um, so what we're gonna talk about first is why it's called a P2. The reason why it's called a P2, this is something that has been implemented actually by members in high tier themselves. I didn't necessarily call it a P2. I just understood it as a P2. But over time, as I have gone through teachings, people seem to understand the P2 better. Uh, it's not part two. It's not, uh, you know, power two. It's not nothing like that. It's simply potential, right? It means that the two might be created here. This is the area we're looking for a two. Hence, it might be a two. It's a potential two, right? So the P2 stands for a two that has not yet swept the high or low, right? It has not swept the high or low. So the P2 forms around this very area of price. This is your previous homework, right? As soon as we run this very low right here, we have a P2. Notice that I did not say P1 first. You will always see me note out the twos first, because without a two, there is no one, right? Because if price just did this is completely nothing to you right now. This very high is absolutely nothing to you. So you don't want to confuse yourself with writing out P1 before the P2. If you understand where the P2 is, if that P2 sweeps that high, that potential high to be swept is the P1. That will be especially important when you run into multi-time frame sequences in the future. You will need to make it very, very clear and very simple that you note out the two first, 1 and 3 comes after, right? Um, so whenever price sweeps that very low right here, we have a potential two. That potentials two job is to sweep this very high. That's the idea. This is the high probability trade. We're gonna talk about that more in the numbers characteristic in terms of higher potential trades, lower potential trades, different characteristics between each and every single number. Um, but since that's the P2, as soon as we sweep this high now, we have officially a 2 that has been created. And when that number 2 is created, that 1 is officially created. So what you could say is, as soon as 2 sweeps that high, as soon as that P2 sweeps that high, we create a 1 and a 3 at the same time. All right? So now you understand why this is very important. This has the power to create two numbers out of one number. All right? Price runs up higher. We sweep that high. We have a 3. Now, the ideal scenario would be if price went down here, as that is the 3's potential job. Now, you might say, well, Jay, why don't you call that 3 a P3 before we run lower? Very simple. Number three's job can be different things. Number three's job is not specifically to run into that two. That's not his job to do. It could definitely do that if price decides to be efficient. We have inefficient sequences and we have sufficient sequences, and I will run into that in a bit. So the number three is looking to run back down into number two, which is at the bottom. And as you may know, this very low right here, as soon as we sweep this high, create that 3, this turns into the shit show level. As soon as we run into here, that should be noted out on your very chart. So whenever we have this very scenario, and I'll go back into this, why do I not note out number 3 as a P3 before it runs that low? Because the job of number 3 could be running number 2. But here's something that you will need to add to the sequences, right? What about now? What happens now? If number three's job is to sweep the shit show levels, how are you going to know if that three is looking to go up here or go down here? Guess what that is? That is something that is called the wonderful story. Rena loves the story, right? Um, so the story needs to be added to the number 3. You cannot take the 3 by itself to expect that 3 that it has to run down here. Now this 2, you should say to yourself, that has to run up here. Yes, I know some people are saying, but wait, Jay, failed 2s and stuff. Yeah, but we're going over the basic sequence, right? So that 2 has to run that high. That's its job to do. Now it can fail to do its job, but just because if a 3 does this right here, it has not failed its job. It has simply done something. All right? So you will never hear me either say a failed 3, a failed 1, or a failed 4 or 5. Because its job is to do something based on the story, right? So the number 3 goes up here. This can run down here. And for simplicity purposes, we're actually going to do that. So price decides to do this. Let's make an efficient sequence right here. It goes up here. My bad. It goes up here. and then it runs into that low. In here, we create the 4 and 5. I'm not saying that the 4 and 5 needs to look like that. I'm not saying that the 4 and 5 needs to look like this. I'm simply saying as soon as we run that, you note out 4 and 5 right there. All right. Price goes here. Just because price does this doesn't mean you're taking an entry because that's the 5. You don't do that, right? The 4 and 5 right here is created when we sweep the sequence immediately. So in an efficient sequence, the 4 and 5 will be created, meaning when the 3 runs into the shit show level, that 4 and 5 is created. 3 cannot do this stuff right here and then do that and you call it a 4 and 5. That is not correct. Price needs to go up here. It can maybe do one of those and then run down here. That's essentially what it can do. It needs to stay intact of the sequence. So if price just heads back up higher here, you're just noting out that shit show level as a potential PY for later. So the 4 and 5 in this case does this thing right here. Does this, maybe does that, and then does this. The 4 and 5 is something important, and we're going to run into that in the future as well, and we call it the one bounce. How we're bouncing between the 30 and the 70. And we talked a bit about that the other day, where Kai explained some of his wicks and stuff in the Q&A session yesterday. Um, he explained some things that he has seen overall, right? And that's some advanced stuff. You don't need to add that right now. What you should know is that the one high in a bullish sequence, this right here is the bullish sequence because the 2 is looking to be bullish, right? That means that this entire thing is called the bullish sequence. So in a bullish sequence, the one's high and the one's low, that is your one bounce. So this is where you can expect to see reactions from the 30 and the 70. It does not mean that it has to. Also mentioned in pre-plays 30 to 70. Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't mean that price has to react from them. I'm just saying keep a note of them, right? In the future, in advanced sequences, when you're adding CBC to things and inside breathing room and ISS levels, that's when you can start to predict what the 4 and 5 is going to do already down here. So you can start to predict what the 4 and 5 is going to do in the future. But that's not for now. So price runs higher. The 4 and 5's job is to either sweep that low or sweep that high. Now I ask you this. Can the 4 and 5 fail? Yes or no? I'm speaking from T. I'm speaking from they don't know the sequence yet. And you've been here for some time, so it's just because you have autism or something, right? Like me. So everything at this point is is autism. Everything is a tricky question nowadays, right? everything everything is all right. So in this very instance, right? The 4 and 5, the answer to this is that it cannot fail. Because what we need to step into in this case is that if the 4 and 5 goes up, we're bullish. If the 4 and 5 goes below itself, it's bearish. For us, it's just giving us the indication what's going to happen next, right? So at the end of the day, it's just literally telling us go up the next sequence or go down the next sequence. So in this instance, it's just giving us direction for the upcoming thing. Gosh dang, something's. Um, so, so what you have right in front of you right here is the 4 and 5 or the 3 up top, right? So whenever price runs that 3, which it did in this case, right? Price runs up high. We know that the next week sequence is bullish. Price does this right here. Now, everybody in the chat should be saying that's now a breathing room. And this right here, let me get rid of this. Just move that to the right. This right here is now officially a P2. Why? Because we ran this breathing room, which means that that's a P1. This should be burned into your mind, right? This very thing right here, burned into your mind. All right. So, um, in this very instance, you have the P2, the P1 right in front of you. You're saying, okay, I'm expecting the 2 to go up. Run that P1. Price, which usually doesn't happen if you have a 4 and 5 that's bullish, because the 4 and 5, right, tells us the next sequence should be going up. That is looking to go higher, right? But price does this thing right here. What just happened? This right here is called PFF2. Yeah, no. It's this right here is called officially a failed 2. I call it the failed 2 because price had the opportunity after sweeping the breathing room to head back up for that high, but instead it swept that low. And I know some people are thinking, well, that might be a breathing room right here, so that's a 2, so that's a 3 inside the bigger 2 and stuff. We're not looking to confuse them yet, right? So this is the F2 right here. The failed 2 now has just officially told us that we're now going to be bearish. In this very instance, it told us bearish. Why is that? Because when the failed 2 appears like that, we had the opportunity to go up, but guess what? I don't want to go up. That should give you the indication of when price now sweeps this breathing room. Look what happens with that 2. Oops. So what is happening right here, you're seeing a 4 and 5 that is turning bullish in the next sequence. The next sequence potentially shows up P2, failed 2. What just happened was we did not want to go higher. So guess where we're going? Lower. And this is something that a lot of people have a struggle with. Understanding where the 2 can form and where they cannot form. Some people will have the 2s at the bottom. Some people will have the 2s at the top as we're going up. That is not correct. As we are going up, the 2 should always be formed on the bottom. It's impossible for number 2 to be created at the top of the range as we're going up. This, what I'm doing right here, now I'm gonna discuss a whole lot of people. Uh, there's gonna be a lot of people that are like, "Oh, this just feels so wrong right now," especially The people that have been here for a while. This right here should, disgust a lot, a lot of people. People will be, this is this this right here. If this happens, yeah, it's making your eyes bleed, right? this this is some crazy stuff, right? Now people who should be autism want to say, "Holy smokes, what is going on? My brain can't even process what this right here is." But this is a very common mistake in the beginning. You're putting out the twos up top, expecting price to run lower. So what happens right here? What is very very important for you guys to understand is that there's a missed thing in the market right here, because there needs to be a failed two or a 4 or 5 that runs itself to become shifting from bearish to bullish to create twos on the bottom. And a lot of people have just missed out on that as we are moving, right? So when people do this very thing right here, there's some missed information in terms of understanding the market right here, right? That's a pretty bad explanation, actually. That's a better one right here. Patch it up. So people are putting out that too because we ran that high. And then we run high and they're putting in another two. But for a lot of people now, and for the new guys, what you need to do in this case and understand is that this right here was officially just a P2 to potentially run into that low. But that just switched over to a F2 as we run ourselves. So as soon as that happens, when you have a failed two, the twos can no longer be put up top like this. It now officially switched to the bottom. And now a lot of people that have autism feel good again. So price runs higher like this, and then price does this thing right here. P2. That shifts over into what? F2 right here. Price runs up, goes down. The twos are shifting. Price goes up, goes down. Do you see what's happening? The failed twos in this instance are putting the twos in the opposing side of the market. It's shifting the twos. This is how we are set as, straight when we're watching the markets in terms of following along with the sequence. And guess what? The reason why you have been taking so many dumbass losses as prices just going higher and higher and higher and higher and higher, and you're just sitting there, now it has to go down, now it has to go down, now it has to go down. It's because of this very reason. You were thinking this, but what you should be automatically thinking with this model, if you follow along with the flow, it should be this, and that. And guess what? You are going to be catching the lowest point where price shifts around, and you're going to be participating to the upside. Right? So, this is what is very important when we're reading stuff, right? Yeah, it has to take breathing rooms. This is not officially to even that. But price needs to be sweeping like this. So, this low right here needs to be sweeping that, and this low needs to be sweeping that, and this low needs to be sweeping that. But you understand the drill. So what you have right here is a very, very, very important thing, because a lot of people take that misstep of understanding that, right? Well, now you're giving me autism, guys, so now I need to do it. Now I need to do it correctly here. But look at this, right? Two, 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 no two, right? Where is the sweep of the breathing room? This is a sweep of that, sweep of that, sweep of that. I understand why it's so important to understand where the breathing rooms are located at, right? And this is also a breathing room, but within the sweep. And this is also a breathing room. So now we're sweeping that, and then it does that. And then it does that. Sweep that breathing room, goes lower. F2, switch over sides. You're now taking the two up top here. And for you guys that have watched the LSS model, you know where exactly where we're heading from this point. Yoink, sweep that last breathing, last shit level at the bottom, right? So that is something that is very important when it comes to the sequence, right? I don't want you guys to end up too badly in that spot. Some of you guys will, anyways, and that's fine. But that's something that is very important. Um, we're gonna get into more of that. I'll actually do this. So if price does this thing right here, there's two scenarios when the two can fail. This is the first indication that the two can fail. All right. So why do I say that? Well, this is one breathing room. What just happened over here is a fail two. We call that a fail two. But the official area, again, the official area where the two has officially failed is running the second breathing room. So, what I mean by this is that we can run that breathing room, go up, fail like this, but it's not until here that the breathing room or the official two has failed, running two breathing rooms, right? Um, the other scenario is when price just does this thing right here. Sweep that, automatically a failed two. Most likely you'll get some sort of reaction here and then it will do that and might do that. So there's two scenarios, run itself or just run them both at the same time. Okay. Um, this is going to be deep understood to a deeper level when we tap into CBCs and stuff in the future, right? When we're talking about candle by candles, running two breathing rooms and stuff. But what you need to know for now is either it tries to go up, fails. That's not 100% indication, but a really good indication that we're gonna go lower from here. The official area in which price has failed that too is down here on the technical aspect of things, right? But on the story aspect of things, this is where it fails. It wanted to go higher, but it couldn't do it. The technical aspect is we're running one, so we can still go up. We can still go up. We can still go up. Running that second one, we are not going up. See what I mean? And we're gonna differentiate the story to the technicals in the future as well. And that's gonna be a headache for another day. So that's the difference between two scenarios of a failed two. And that's the answer to your question there, Kilby. Um, that's that very question right there. Not right now, Rena. So when you have that 4 and 5 that succeeds to run that 3, that's bullish, right? And this right here is a full sequence, right? The full sequence is taking place right in front of you, right here. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 runs 2, runs higher, we're bullish. Next sequence might play out here, but the failed to appears. So guess what? The new sequence starts. right? So then price does this. Bad. Right here. What we call this in this group is a inefficient sequence. Now, something that is really important for you guys to understand in this instance is that the inefficient sequences, it's what that is what makes up our story and our POIs for later. So you guys that have autism like myself, you should ask yourself the question, why is that? Why is that? Why would it be inefficient? So in this instance, we might be running for this level. These two lines resembles shit show levels, by the way. So in this instance, we're running into a shit show level, which is what? An a inefficient sequence that never swept the shit show level. We run back down through these levels. Price runs into this 4 and 5 automatically after sweeping the last shit show level. 4 and 5 goes down here. One bounce, runs up higher, does that. We're bullish in a bullish sequence. Price now runs here. So look at that. Bearish sequence 2, 3, 1 is right here. Do you see that I noted out that 2 before that 3 and 1? 2, 3, 1. We run higher. 4 and 5. We sweep that high. We're now officially bullish, right? It runs itself. The next sequence should be bullish. Why? Because the 4 and 5 told us what the next 2 is going to do. The 4 and 5 told us what the next 2 is going to do, right? So if the 4 and 5 tells us what the next 2 is going to do, in this case, it tells us go up. And what is our story in this case? Up there. Boom. Left out that 2. Price runs and does this thing right here. And then suddenly this very thing happens. Boom. What you can see here as well now. This is not an inefficient sequence. This is actually an efficient sequence at this low. This right here was the inefficient sequence. Why? Because that 3 never decided to run into that shit show level. Price is going to run up all this bullshit up top here that is left out. Guess what? Price is gonna reach up here and it's gonna tell itself, let's go higher, let's go higher. But then it's gonna look back and say, God dang, wait a second, we left this shit down here. It's going to do that very thing right here. And it's the last shit show level. You now have the LSS move. And yet again, this right here, what you have in front of you, should, as I delete all these things, should be more and more indistinguishable for your brain to comprehend What's freaking playing out right here? As I delete these things, you say, holy smokes. Because as I was explaining it, how does this now make sense to you? Look at this. All of this that we just did, and I showed you to the tick, go up, go down, explain this, explain that. This for so many people now would go, as soon as I delete it, you should go, God dang. Because what just happened is, what the shit is going on over here? It should be two different things suddenly. It was all explainable just a second ago as I had all my notations out. As soon as we got rid of them, this is just price all over the place. This is what they so call the seek and destroy conditions. This is what they so call the Asia session. This is what they so call the back and forth and consolidation. And this right here is what they call something completely different. I was able to explain all of this, right? Right around now. You had inefficient sequences, you had efficient sequences, all of these things, right? Let me do something fun for y'all. Look at as soon as I start to add all these things up again, it's now explainable. It should be a completely different chart again for you now. And what you have right here, let's do this thing right here. Let's actually do this right here. So what you have right now is, guess what? Are you guys listening in right now? Because now is when it starts to get autism. I just want to see everybody understood the failed twos, just the bigger the entire sequence. You understand the inefficient sequence and the efficient one, right? Y'all with me? It's getting better every new group. Yeah. You know, uh, as I mentioned, I'm here to learn as a teacher, right? I learn how to teach and what to teach, and you guys teach me what I should teach and in what order, right? So what you have right here now is the sequences, right? You see it all, makes sense, right? I want everybody to look at the chart, what just happened. Again, everybody just focus down on my screen right now. Look at this. Take note of this, everybody. With a purple line here. Because what I've been doing all this time is what? It's just a failed two on the higher time frame without you even seeing it. So as we are noting down all of these sequences, we're focused down into this stuff, into that stuff, into this stuff. Suddenly you just have a potential two that fails to run lower and just runs itself. So the next higher time frame move might just be the two that forms down here to run higher. And what you're going to have down here is just a sequence that tells you when we're going up, a sequence that tells you when we're going down, a sequence tells you where we're going up. Does this make sense to somebody? Somebody should go, holy shit, he just did that without me seeing it. I didn't see the higher time frame. We were focused down into the sequence over here. But as we're playing with the sequences, what is happening is just a higher time frame sequence. And inside that, we have smaller sequences. And now you should tell yourself this. But wait, doesn't that mean, does that not mean that if you just did all of this in a higher time frame sequence, shouldn't it all do the same thing within this low, within this high, 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 within this low, in the same way that it just did within this high, within this low, within this high, within this low, within this high, and within that low. What you have right in front of you now, and this is what we're going to talk about in the future. This is what we call the multi-time frame sequence. Somebody said you see more sequences now. At, listen to me closely here, at every turning point in the entirety of market, down to the tick charts of the tick charts, you will have a sequence that fails or succeeds or goes lower or continues. 100% of every turning point in the market has a sequence on some time frame. And it's readable, it's understandable, you can follow along with it, you can take trades from it, you can make a shit ton of money from it, you can understand it, you can be in the flow of it, you will understand the story of it. What does this mean? It means that 0% of the market, 0% of the market is not unreadable. 100% of the market is readable and could be understood. Because in the same way we just did this and it made sense to so many of you, this can be done on the lower time frame. Because as soon as I say this, now imagine this in your mind, because you are automatically saying that the purple line is now the 5 minute chart. The red one is the 1 minute chart, for example. Now you have this perspective. The purple line is the 1 second chart. The red line is the tick chart. And now your mind should be pop switching. So now you have sequences inside the sequences, inside the sequences, inside the sequences, and it keeps on going like that until we can't even see price on a chart. We're going down to whatever nanoseconds there is, if it even exists, lower than that. That means that there is a sequence that starts and it never ends. What I mean by this, and here it comes for all you OGs, is that somewhere in price it has started. And it is decided to never stop. It begins on the smallest of time frames, the time frame we can't even measure, and we move higher and higher and higher. Because you might see this as a fail too right here, right? But in this instance, that's a fail too, right? But what you have right in front of you up top here is now a 2, for example. What just happened now? That's the form of 5, which is also a 2 on the higher time frame. And now for some of you guys that have studied my actual my Twitter, right? 2, 4, and 5. 2, 4, and 5. 2, 4, and 5. Smaller time frame, bigger time frame, bigger time frame, bigger time frame, bigger time frame, and it goes on and on and on, right? Now, this stuff right here is the sequence. You have the efficient sequence, 2, 3. Did you take note that I didn't mention 3 and 1 before number 2? We run 2, 4 and 5 goes up. It could definitely go down as well. Efficient sequence. We swept that 2 immediately after it was created. Inefficient sequence coming up. Inefficient sequence. That is going to be a PY for later. Efficient sequence, inefficient sequence. And the inefficient sequences make up the PYs and the potential stories behind price, in which tells us where we're going to move through sequences, either inefficient or efficient ones. Is that clear to everybody? Are you following along? Members 3, it's especially for you guys, right? So, at this stage, your mind should be, holy smokes, right? And I promise you, in the upcoming maximum week, many of you will have holy shit type of moments. It will be so much, it will blow your brains. You think you think breathing rooms has blown your mind? Man, that's I see it all more clearly now. I promise you, after you have read through this stuff and you're going through the homework that I'm going to give you, you're gonna never, ever be able to turn your back on this. It's on every single time frame. It's on from the smallest of time frames to the biggest of time frames, from the biggest time frames to the smallest of back frames. You will read price backwards and forwards at the same time. Because in the same way you can read price from the smallest time frame to the biggest one, you can also read price from the biggest time frame to the smallest of time frame and know when it's going to explode. All of that stuff is readable. And in all honesty, I'm not going to proclaim this myself. So I'm gonna ask some of you guys in hide tier and members that have been here for some time. Is price predictable? People say price is not predictable. Is price predictable through this move, through this shit show sequence? Have you seen it yourself? Be completely honest, 100% honest, right? Just to give the new guys, the new members, an idea, right? So the people that say price is not predictable, don't try to predict price. 100% bullshit. Well, how do you make your money? You trade. Oh wait, they do. They trade price based on the past. Listen again. The reason why they say price is not predictable is because they trade based on the past. But us traders, since the 4 and 5 tells us the future of what the next two is going to do, we are one step ahead of what? Market structure. You're asking yourself the question why you're not reading market structure. It's just because you're one step ahead of market structure. While they're saying this right here is a shift, now saying it's shifting again, they just got stopped out right here. You're just looking for that move. As they're looking for longs here, looking for longs down here. So what you have right in front of you is that the 4 and 5 tells you the future of how market structure is going to look like. So when I'm telling you, and I've told people on my X as well, this stuff right here is going to take over market structure. And you just imagine this very thing right now. How many models out there are based on market structure? I would say about all of them. Now, the sequence tells you the future of what market structure is going to do. And that's what you're here to learn. And it's all by counting to number 5. In matter of fact, number 4. And in the future, you're just going to count to number 2. That's what you have upcoming for you. That right there is what you're here to learn. You're here to learn not trading on past price. That screwed you over. You're trading the current price with the expectation of the future. And since you're going to be able to read price from the future backwards into the current, this is the expectation of the future, right? This is the current. The current will also tell you the future. Here is where you stay. And you are acting as the middleman right here. This right here is being in the flow. You understand the future understands the current understands the future understands the current. You're going back and forth. It's a never ending loop. You tap in, and then you're sidelined for some time. You tap in, you're sidelined for some time. What you have right in front of you is the flow state. And this is where you will see a lot of people operating out of. You see some big R's, right? When we're doing the weekly recap, that's people being in the flow, kicking ass in the flow. They understand when they're in, they understand when they're out. They understand when they're in, they understand when they're out. That's people that have understood the basic core concept to the very foundational level. All of the things I'm saying right here, I have said that before through the recorded material. And you will also see, if you look in the chat right now, you will see many people or some people saying that this is the best version of this. And it's crazy because these people also said that the last time I did this, it was the best version. Isn't that fascinating when it's the same information, just in a different concept, or I'm explaining things in a different way, or I'm explaining things in somewhat the same way? The information is already out there. But what is fascinating here is because they have understood the foundation to their level and their degree to this day, because they worked their asses off, not going to take any credit for it. When they go back to the information, they will know more things. So when they read through it and go through it a second time, or a third time, or a fourth time, or a fifth time, they're going to realize things they didn't realize before. Because at the end of the day, the more you know, the more you will know. And that's extremely fascinating. So, all of the things that I've shown here is just a quick tap into multiple different things that we're gonna run over and dig deeper into the current with the expectation of the future. We're gonna tap into CBC. I haven't even gone over that. We're gonna tap more into failed twos and characteristic behind each number. All of these things are coming along for you to dig and dive deeper into the understanding of just counting to number five. We're dumbing it down, and we need to go deeper and understand things to a deeper level in order for us to dumb it down, right? That's what we need to do. We need to dumb it down in that matter, because first we dig deeper, try to find all these things and understand it to a very, very deep level, and then you're going to come back and say, now I understand how to count to number five. Well, others say, well, I can do that. And then they try to and they get kicked ass with, but you actually understand what it means to count to number five. And that's what you're here to learn as well. Um, the informational phase usually goes on for about 4 to 6 weeks or so, wouldn't you say so? Previous members, night here, usually goes on for about 4 to 6 weeks. Um, and after that, then you can sort of start to really understand what is happening in the lives and in the back testing sessions. And as we go on, you will understand more and more and more and more. Now you're soon going to start also hit hit what I so call the walls. Now we're going to chat more about the walls in the future, but that's my way of saying you're going to hit a bunch of bumps in your learning curve that's going to either make you or break you. And you decide if you're going to push through that wall or if you're going to stay at that wall and give up and give in. Now, that's the one thing I definitely cannot do for you. Most of the people that you see kicking ass, all of them have gone through walls in one way or another. As a matter of fact, I don't see a single name that hasn't gone through walls more or less. Some people huge walls, some people's less walls, right? Um, for some people, it might appear later. For some people, it might appear before. It's highly person based. So it completely depends on who you are. And we're going to talk more about walls when they're upcoming. And I highly encourage you to, if you feel like, oh, I'm sort of hitting a wall, I promise you, you have not yet hit a wall. All right. That's the first thing I can say. When you hit a wall, you will know when that wall you're running right into that wall and it stays intact. I promise you, you will know when that wall is right in front of you. And when you do, just reach out to the general chat. Uh, we also have a wall breakthrough section. If you feel like killing your ego pretty fast, that's a really great way of kind of getting rid of that stuff. You can write stuff out, a wall that you've gone through or you're currently struggling with or whatever, just to be out there and say, this is my ego speaking right now. I don't want to look weak in front of everybody else. I don't want to show my troubles in front of everybody else. They don't know you, right? They have no idea who you are. But you need to kill your ego fast, because if you don't, that is what's going to kill your career in trading. And I can promise you that thing. So your ego needs to be killed. When that is done, you will more easily go through walls that you have in front of you. If you have an egotistic mindset and you don't want to get hurt or butt hurt, I promise you, this is going to take you years. But the faster you kill your ego, expose yourself completely, find your problems, solve your problems, you're going to become a better trader in no time. And that's a guarantee from my side. So there's a lot on the line for you as well. And I am definitely not the teacher that is going to sugarcoat stuff. I'm going to move fast. I'm going to push you extremely hard so you can reach those walls fast. So you can break through those walls fast. You know, it's been long enough. You've been sitting on the sidelines long enough. Your family needs you, your friends needs you. I don't necessarily need you, right? And you right now you might need me, but I don't want you to need me. And that's why it's very, very, very important that you listen to each and every single step, because I've been there, done that. It's been predicted multiple times now already through multiple people. As a matter of fact, I would say 100% of the people. And it's going to happen to you as well. So you have to sort of decide here for yourself. Break that wall or give up and give in when that wall hits. And I don't blame you if you give up. It's tough, man. But if you want to find that profitability through this model, that wall is going to come flying at you. And the faster you get there, the faster you can proceed to become better. That was essentially what I had for you guys today. For the homework, note this down. Note this very thing down, right? For the homework now, we are going to do many, many sequences. It can be efficient sequences. It can be inefficient sequences. All right. You are going to find multiple sequences. What shall we say? How many sequences would they need to find? I usually like to say this because um, I ask this question. I have an idea for myself, but I want to see what you other members in high tier think. Um, 600. Yeah, yeah. There you go. And that's the reason, right? There can never be an upper limit for this, to be honest. 600 sequences. Um, Most likely, I would say let's settle for 300 because they don't see the smaller time frame yet. I'm lowball. Yeah, because you see the CBCs and stuff. You see, he's, he's trying to. This guy is trying to literally kick your ass, man. It's gonna be sitting 24/7, going back, you know, uh, going back 2 months, right? Um, if you understand CBC, I don't know. Let's not do CBC if you understand. Uh, if you understand CBCs, don't do CBCs, right? I still want you to focus down on doing the 1 minute bigger sequences that I've showed you, right? Look at a breathing room through the 1 minute chart. Look at the breathing room, sweep that, go higher, right? That's a two into a three, and then runs lower, right? So it can be of any size. If you think it looks like a sequence, you note that out. So let's say we're gonna aim for 300, right? I'm gonna be nice to you. 300, but then what I also tell everybody is that how many. Let me actually see if people have actually listened to me. How many more times do I look for people to do this? Because if I say you do 300, at the end of the day, you're going to be 3 times better than everybody else. But it's if you 3 times it, hey, that means you're going to rate 3 times better than somebody that just lowballed it and made 300. Good enough. Or you're going to obsess over it, right? So a right mindset is I should do 2 or 3 times more than what Jay tells me to do at all times. That's a really good mindset. That's why you're seeing multiple people in here becoming profitable within 2, 3 months. Multiple. That's why you're also seeing people kicking ass with NQ, pulling off 30 Rs here and there and saying, not good enough. Because they put in the work. They 3 times their outcome. They push themselves extremely hard. Right? So you set some of your goals. You set your push, right? And you should always think to yourself, I could have done more. And you should feel stressed because I'm going to be one step ahead of you, right? If you do 3 times more than I say you do, I'm not even going to do a thumbs up. I'm just going to say, cool. All right. You're not going to get any credit for that. Oh, so you did a good amount of work for yourself, for your future, and for your family, right? I'm not going to suggest a figure, but we'll say it's very important to do this. Really push yourself. I didn't do mine due to personal issues, which I apologize for the high tier. But I really did set me back weeks not going doing the homework. That's right. It's very, very important. It's very, very, very important. So let's set a number of 300, right? 300 sequences. And it starts with what? You seeing the breathing room. Sweep that, 2, 1, 3. And it can be inefficient, and you can just be like, okay, one sequence. That's one sequence right there. Not 3 sequences. It's not the numbers, it's the entire thing. It's 1 through 3 of inefficient sequence, or it's 1 through 4 and 5 sufficient sequence. It's either one, right? So let's say 300 of them, and that should be posted in homework too. And I'll make sure that the support team opens that up again. And you do 300, 3 times it if you want, 4 times it if you want, 5 times it if you want. My goal here is to make you feel stressed about not doing enough, even though you did more than enough than what I told you. The more you do, believe it or not, the harder you work, the more you create, the more you look for it, the more you're going to see it. I can promise you that as well. So it's up to you. put in the hard work right now, become really, really efficient with it, or pay for that later going back to that information again and redo everything. It's up to you, right? Um, and that I'll say the second choice there, that's gonna prolong your process a whole lot. And I don't want that, and you don't want that. Nobody wants that. So do your due diligence and actually put in the work. Look to outperform everybody. So yeah, doing the sequences until next lecture, 5 minutes before, and then I'm closing the homework section, right? If you don't do the homework, I'm not giving out warnings either. If I see that you're slacking, I kick people out head first. People have seen it before, I've done it before, I'll continue to do so. This is a group where I'm looking to have the best of the best, create the best of the best, to become the best of the best. And I don't care. I don't care about sugarcoating. I don't care about none of that. You're here to learn. If you're not learning, piss off. I just did you a favor, right? Do something else. Go to ICT and study that for 2 years, and then you beg to come running back into this group or create study something else. I don't do that. If you're looking to learn this stuff, looking to make money from the markets, this is the right spot. But we have a huge standard, and it's a standard where people are learning at mega speeds. If somebody is acting up like the anchor, you're kicked out. Head first. See ya. That's how it goes. All right. Uh, so it's tough love, and at that stage, it's just tough for you, right? So with that said, peeps, I'll chat with you later on, and definitely tomorrow when we got some live price action, got some good things coming, right? Without further ado, I wish you a wonderful evening. Um, 1 week until next lecture. It's one lecture a week, so you got time to study. With that said, G's, talk to you tomorrow. Swim easy.